Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Richard Sachs, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College located in southeastern Ohio. And I'm delighted this afternoon to have as my guest Dr. Craig Klein, who's our Dean of Community College Programming. This is a new position for us here at Rio Grande, and Dr. Klein started the first of this year, 2017. Dean of Community College Programming, that's fairly self-explanatory, but before we start talking about your role and some of your responsibilities here, can you give us a little bit of background? How did you end up here? And don't just say you took I-64 to US 35, but literally, how did you end up here?
Well, I was a professor for many, many years, taught broadcast journalism, and slowly migrated into administrative tasks. Became dean at a couple of community colleges in Missouri. Eventually working my way to a grant-funded position at a technical school in Topeka, Kansas, Washburn Institute of Technology, which is part of Washburn University. What's distinctive about that particular institution is that it's one of the few municipally controlled institutions in America. So the city of Topeka actually has jurisdiction over that.
And that's why it's called Washburn University of Topeka. I always see that.
That's
what
right.
do you know?
That's it. My background, my degree is a bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Kansas, a master's in telecommunication from Indiana University, and a doctorate in higher ed administration from the University of Florida. Go Gators.
Well, hold on first. So I have a Kansas alumnus the week that March Madness begins. Do you want to make any comment about Naismith or anybody else who's come through University of Kansas besides yourself?
Well, if I must.
Oh, you don't have to.
If I must. I stayed in Naismith Residence Hall when I was an undergraduate.
Did you really? What do you know? What do you know? And I think most of you probably know that James Naismith in 1891 founded the game of basketball when he was in Springfield, I think at the YMCA there. But then he moved out to Kansas shortly thereafter and took the game of basketball with him. And my understanding has always been that that's why Kansas has such a distinguished basketball tradition.
And that is true. And there are many things on campus named after him, not just athletic facilities, but obviously dormitories and special rooms and conference areas and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, thank you for that sidebar a little bit because I'm quite a basketball fan. But let's talk about your role here now. I think I know the answer to this audience, and my strong viewership, which is at least in double digits, Patrick, right? Maybe triple digits by this point. I think they're aware of where our classes are offered, but can you talk briefly about the main campus and the off-site centers and locations and things like that?
Well, sure. There are, in addition to some online offerings, there are 4 places where a student might attend Rio Grande Community College classes. Here on the main campus in Rio Grande. And we have 3 off-site locations. One is in Megs Center, and it's located in Pomeroy. There's a picture of it up there for you. There are a number of things you can do there. The programs there are complete degree programs.
I don't mean to interrupt, but it must be one of the pickup trucks that took this picture, one of the pickup trucks for sale at the Chevy dealer, because that's like the view of it. A little bit?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a large car dealership right next door.
Who knew that a full-size truck could even do that?
That's right.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, that's the Meg Center. I'll get back to what they do there in a few minutes. Next up, MacArthur Center. And we should have a shot, there we are, of
great.
all the smiling faces there. That obviously is in MacArthur. And we have a number of programs that are offered there, and we'll talk about that also in just a few minutes.
Now, the faculty and staff and students look good. The building does not look good. That is not the best angle of that building.
No, there are better angles to better capture the facility.
Kind of like taking a picture of the backside of a horse or something. Okay.
But they do fine work.
Okay.
They do
yes,
fine work.
Absolutely.
And next up, we have the Jackson Center over in Jackson. And we should have probably some interior shots of that.
Yeah.
This is located next to the movie theater in Jackson, for
That's
those of
right.
you who know where that is. And so we have a number of computer labs, a number of learning spaces in there, and you can see what some of them look like in these photos.
We were there for a meeting yesterday afternoon, very comfortable, and lots of accessible parking right there.
Yeah, so there are, and altogether, you've just seen 4 locations for where one can attend Rio Grande Community College courses. And I think we could probably move on to what exactly a person might study.
Sure. I think you created, and Mike Thompson will put up in a minute, the degrees and certificates. Again, we have a number of different associate degrees. Since this is community college programming, we're focused at the associate level rather than the bachelor's and master's degrees that we offer. Of course, the traditional degrees are the AA and the AS, being the associate version of the BA and the BS, the Associate of Arts and Associate of Sciences. Do you want to talk about things like the AAS and the ATS that maybe the general audience may not be as familiar with, and why we have those different degrees?
Sure, and maybe we could get a graphic up of the AAB. This is an Associate of Applied Business. So any applied science degree, or applied business degree in this case, is designed to prepare a student for a career in their chosen field of study. It can be transferred to a bachelor's degree at the time of completion, or it can be at some point in the future. And you can see here the ones that we do offer in applied business, business management. Then we have office technology, 3 subsets of that: administrative office assistant, legal office, and medical office assistant. And in a broader scope, the Associate of Applied Science, again, degrees that make you workforce ready when you complete them. So plain Associate of Science degrees, well, not plain, but applied science degrees. Going down the list: career and technical teaching, pre-kindergarten, nursing technology, information tech, information and support services, information tech network systems, information tech programming and software development, diagnostic medical sonography, general or cardiovascular, radiologic technology, and respiratory therapy. So quite a few, particularly in allied health.
And as long as that's still on the screen before it leaves, let me emphasize also to the audience that some of these areas go directly into jobs. The DMS program, we try to limit that to 10 students per year, but they all have jobs at the end of the year. Same thing with respiratory therapy. Very small program, accredited within the area, and again, generally placements immediately. Most of the nursing technology students are students who are preparing for the nursing program. And again, so if they get into the nursing program, that also is a quick ticket and a direct path to a job afterwards.
That's right. And so people would take any of these programs really because it makes them job ready.
Right.
And they generally find themselves as being quite employable,
Good.
Particularly for the applied science ones. Now, there are others as well. So Associate of Art, I'm going to say a traditional degree, but a fine arts degree, and occasion, but of course we don't actually see art on there, but we do see things typically associated with a more liberal arts kind of orientation, so communication, and art and graphic design, history, music, political science, physical education, psychology, social services, and sociology. So these generally are considered degrees that prepare one to transfer to a bachelor's program, often but not exclusively in the same field of study.
Right, often called liberal arts transfer courses, although
correct.
it's really liberal arts and sciences. And again, the audience should know that the AA and the AS programs require general education as well.
That's right.
And that's one of the distinctions between an applied program and the traditional art or science degree.
That's right. So one, in the broadest sense, an associate degree, and we're not talking about the applied degrees, would contain course-specific offerings or discipline-specific offerings. They contain general education classes, and they would have, usually at the associate's level, just a handful of electives.
Sure.
As well. Associate degrees are typically 60 credit hours, though they can go a little bit more. Particularly the applied ones can go a little bit more because the requirements are far more specific, particularly for accreditation purposes. But one can generally complete these. If one went full-time, you could complete an associate's degree in approximately 2 years.
Right. And Mike, can you put the AS programs back up, those 6 programs in Associate of Sciences? So I know some of these programs, biology, chemistry, math, or standard AS areas. Have you interacted enough with Eric Mattson and the fine woodworking folks to talk about that? Because that's a really unique program we have
I just
here.
see examples of their work.
Okay.
We've met,
Okay.
we've had a preliminary conversation, and that's about it. I do admire their work, and
Right.
the building that I'm in, the Davis Career Center, actually has examples of their work
Sure.
in the hallways.
And the point I would make to the audience is fine woodworking technology differs from carpentry. This is not carpentry. This is not basic carpentry or finished carpentry. It's fine woodworking, which is defined as a number of different replica pieces, like Chippendales from the 18th century. They'll follow a Chippendale form and create a brand new piece of furniture. And fine woodworking is another area, like welding, like diagnostic medical sonography. It's a 2-year degree, and if students complete the degree and they complete it satisfactorily, they've got a $50,000 job. Believe it or not, fine pieces of furniture. This is not the cheap furniture that you and I buy and then put together, but fine furniture is still made in 2 places in the United States that I'm familiar with, North Carolina and northern New England. It's not even Massachusetts, it's Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and North Carolina. I'm not sure exactly why that's the case, but any successful fine woodworking student has an automatic job if they're willing to move to one of those states. There are, in fact, a couple small shops here in southeastern Ohio, but that's where our students go, which I find fascinating. As you said, the work is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's a fit and finish and a level of craftsmanship that anyone would be proud to have in their home.
Right, and those of you who are woodworkers, there's no screws used. There's no glue used. Everything's dovetail joints. It's artistry. It's really beautiful stuff.
Very good. Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Associate of Science degrees, you see them back up here. Sports and exercise studies, biology, chemistry, environmental science, and math. Okay. And then we have the Associate of Technical Studies. I guess I would think of this as a super applied degree.
Right, exactly.
And this is mostly coursework, mostly applied coursework in whatever it is one is studying. So we have, for example, industrial automation and maintenance and welding. Welding turns out to be one of the most employable fields one can find right now. We have trouble in where I came from in Kansas, and a lot of technical schools especially have trouble keeping people long enough to actually get a degree. So with a relative handful of courses, or even working on a certificate, which is roughly half of what would be required for a degree, people find themselves as being very employable, particularly for welding. So we had trouble keeping folks. They would accumulate maybe a semester or half a year's worth of courses and then be hired away at salaries that would rival that of their instructors.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a
No,
good point.
it's not easy work, and it's highly skilled. It's highly skilled, very physical work, but the rewards are considerable for those who are called to do that.
Now, Dr. Klein, you just mentioned a 2-year associate's degree in welding and a 1-year certificate in welding. That's a wonderful segue to the certificate programs that we offer here.
Okay, and we have, well, as you can see, 11 of them here on the screen. Accounting, banking, healthcare administration, information technology, marketing, small business management, fine woodworking technology, there it is again, welding, information processing, medical coding and billing, and farm tech or pharmacy technician. And you may recognize farm tech people when you go to get a prescription filled. These are all the people working behind the counter who are not the actual pharmacists. And so they're working on supplying you with whatever your medication needs might be.
Right, and I'm going to waive my HIPAA rights at this point and say that as a middle-aged provost who takes both acid reflux medicine and high blood pressure medicine, if you go to the CVS in Gallipolis, it'll be a Pharm Tech student from Rio Grande who fills your prescription and says, "Oh, hello, Dr. Sachs," in which case I've totally lost my privacy, but my life's an open book anyway, so it's fine for me to know that.
Well, the nice thing about certificates, and you will encounter students much more quickly, students who are taking these kinds of programs, is that it prepares them for the job market in a relatively short period of time. Most of these programs are well under 1 year in length.
Right.
And they lead directly to employment for most people.
Right.
So any of these really, healthcare administration, particularly things like medical building and coding, disciplines that perennially offer good employment prospects, good career prospects as well. And if students decide they want to go ahead and complete an associate's degree at some point later on, then that's certainly possible. But this allows for a relatively short turnaround, particularly all certificate programs do, so that you can do one of the things that community colleges prepares you for and does best, and that is prepares you for a better quality of life than that which you have at the moment.
Wonderful.
So it gives you something demonstrably good that you can not only trade on, but that you can profit from and benefit from for a lifetime.
Sure. So, Dr. Klein, I know you're aware of the fact that we're trying to ramp up our offerings, especially at some of the off-sites, and we have to get certain approvals from Columbus and from the Higher Learning Commission to do that. But can you talk a little bit about, and we won't be able to go through everything, but just an overview on which programs are available at which sites?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm going to start with the Meg Center, and we have, that's located in Pomeroy, again, directly next to a rather large auto dealership.
Yeah, kind of behind it, yes.
So we say next to the Megs Middle School and High School, the view
We
is
used to have a
phenomenal.
clear view of US 7. We don't anymore unless you can see through pickup trucks.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is really a magnificent view. It's $1 million view from up on top of the ridge there. We have a wonderful staff there and a wonderful director. We have day and evening classes there, and we offer entire degree programs there. And so here's a list of them up for you to see. An associate degree in business management, associate degree in early childhood, one in social service. We also offer EMT, emergency medical technician. So the folks that ride in ambulances and come to you when you are in need. And basically all prerequisite and GE classes for nursing and allied health. So this is a combination of offerings that prepare you for either immediate employment or for transferring back to larger degree programs or to pursue additional studies. So it's very much a full service kind of operation. It does a very fine job. So next up we have the MacArthur Center, located in MacArthur, and that's in the old Vinton County High School building, which is now an administrative building. Also day and evening classes there, again, a fine staff. We have no full programs there at this time because compared to the Meg Center in Pomeroy, it's relatively new. However, there are a number of things that you can take there, and they include general education courses. Remember, we talked about those as being part of what a full and complete associate degree might contain, in addition to content-specific courses and electives. You can take courses toward an associate degree in social services. You can take courses toward the degree in business management. You can do your prerequisites for nursing and any number of allied health programs. And you can take the basic EMT class, which is offered every other semester there. So pretty full schedule.
Great.
And finally, we have the Jackson Center in, of course, Jackson, Ohio, and next to the movie theater, day and evening classes there as well. Also fine and dedicated staff and directors there. day and evening classes, and like MacArthur, no full programs right now. Having said that, one can take a number of classes toward the medical coding certificate, classes toward an associate degree in medical office assistant. So you can see that these are a slightly different mix than you see at the other sites, and that's because those opportunities exist more so in the area served by Jackson than, say, the other sites. Again, general education courses which benefit everyone. ENT Basic every other term, and ABLE, which is GED, high school diploma equivalency, available on site, and talks are currently underway to have advanced EMT offered in Jackson, perhaps starting as early as this coming fall.
Okay, great. Well, that was very informative and very interesting. Can you tell us about the interaction that occurs when we determine to offer new programs? I mean, I know how medical coding came up as a certificate program at Jackson, and the Jackson Center is right by where US 32 and 35 intersect. So we're very, those are two of the major 4 lanes in Appalachian, Ohio. You could be 50 miles away and be 50 minutes away from that site. Sure. So can you talk a little bit about the workforce development, the interplay
Sure.
between community and college?
Of course. When one looks at developing a program, whether it's certificate or courses leading to or an entire degree program, most often one looks at workforce needs, and a workforce need is what kind of business and industry do we have in that particular area, who is employing folks, and where needs exist. So that data actually is available. So we have, and I'm going to completely make this up just for point of illustration, we have, let's say, 14 manufacturing facilities in a given location, and they project that they will employ 65 people over the course of the next 2 years. So we take a look at that, we meet with those folks, determine what their education needs are and what they would like to see in a potential employee. Then we are able to actually craft programs, whether they're certificates or degrees, or even individual courses of study, designed to meet those needs, and therefore we're able to best prepare students in as short a time as possible to not just enter the workforce, but to enter the workforce as a quality, well-trained and well-educated employee that the businesses desire and would wish to retain.
That's great. That's great. Well, there's so many more questions that I have, but I want to make certain before we end, do you have a graphic or something where people could go if they want more information or on any of these degrees or certificates? Or
They could certainly contact my office.
Okay.
I'm located in the Davis Career Center on the Rio Grande campus in Rio Grande. We could also talk about contacting the Office of Admissions.
Okay.
Or one can visit any of the 3 sites in Jackson, MacArthur, or Megs in Pomeroy, and talk to any of the people that one finds occupying the offices there when you walk in.
Okay.
And they'll be
Great.
glad to supply you with all kinds of information about the programs that are offered there, including specific class times, days of the week, that sort of thing.
Great. Yeah, and the website as well. Yeah. Going to rio.edu would be a way to do that as well.
Yes, right.
Before we conclude, and I probably should have asked this question much earlier, you and I have both been at both 2-year and 4-year institutions. What do you think drives the community college philosophy at this institution in the United States?
Well, honestly, I think is that community college is there to take all comers, to allow everyone the opportunity to succeed. Almost always community colleges are open admission, open access, so there are really no minimum scores on entrance exams, that sort of thing. So it's open to anyone who wishes to take advantage of what's offered. So it is higher education for anyone who desires it.
Right.
And from there, it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
You know, how far you want to take advantage of that.
Right.
And it is a wonderful resource for the region where we live and the populations that we serve.
Absolutely. And I would just add to that, we are open admissions, although we do have programs like nursing and most of the health allied professions, which you do have to apply for specifically because we're limited by things like, for example, our nurses can only do clinicals in groups of 9 or fewer. And so that limits the size of the program because we have those accreditation areas. So I just want to make sure I don't get any angry phone calls when somebody who has been turned down from the nursing program says, you guys said on air that it's open admissions. It is, but again, there are some programs that are competitive to get into because of our accreditation guidelines, which try to enforce quality.
That's right. Many are open admission. Some are more open than others.
Okay. And as I conclude, I will compliment Dr. Klein and his wife. They are homeowners now in Gallia County, and
Yes, indeed.
He bought a beautiful house on a ridge top nearby near Gallia Academy High School, and he was bragging earlier today that he can get, what is it, 9?
I can get 9 PBS stations
He can get
off
9
air at my
PBS
house.
stations. That's above and beyond anything I've ever seen, so that's wonderful. That's just great. Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Klein. It's been my pleasure to
Thank you for
interview
having
you.
me on.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks to Patrick and Mike. Have a good day, folks.